So, I've been doing this 10 Things You Missed series that's a great way to explore Dark Souls 2 with you guys. Much better than a Let's Play, wouldn't you say? And so far I've covered Majula, Things Betwixt, The Pit, and The Forest. And you know what? On every damn episode so far, I've written it, produced it, released it, and then promptly discovered another awesome fact about the place. And usually it's a really good fact because, it's something I missed as well when I was combing every inch of the area for fascinating little details. So that's what this episode is. It's a compilation of all the missed facts in previous episodes. So like if you learned something new, dislike if you didn't, and see if you can get 10 out of 10. Let's start off by seeing what I missed in my Majula 10 things. The first is something I didn't include because I simply could not manage to get footage of it happening. So we all know how depressed and serious the Emerald Herald is, but did you know that it's possible to catch her in a good mood? Once in a blue moon, you can catch her swinging her legs like a child, something that I only saw happen once in my about 100 hours of playtime. For those of you who have had the good fortune of playing Demon Souls, you'll recognize that this is actually a reference to the Maiden in Black from that game. This action is completely out of her character, but anything's better than hearing Bearer, seek less over and over again. Number 2 didn't even exist in Majula when I made that first 10 things video. Did you know that as of the 6th of June 2014, From is running a promotional campaign for their new DLC within the actual game? That's right. Each week until the first piece of DLC is released on July 22nd, new items will be in the chest in the Majula Mansion. I'll put these things on screen for you guys. Apparently, we'll be getting a secret item on July 22nd, and let me tell you, I am not opening that chest without hitting it first. It's definitely gotta be a mimic, right? Number 3 relates to the plaque on the back of the Majula obelisk. So we've all wondered at this text, thinking maybe it could be unlocked somehow through our actions in-game. The letters are worn beyond recognition, but not in Portuguese. Upon patch 1.04, Portuguese players of Dark Souls 2 noticed that the plaque had its description changed to "The giants crossed the seas, perhaps to return home." This is a really interesting error, perhaps made by the Portuguese translation team. At the very least, it reveals that the obelisk is a war monument, erected after the war. It even has a death counter, almost like a memorial to the people that fell. At most, we learn that Drangleic was the original home of the giants, which could have some fairly significant lore implications. Remember though, this text may have been removed from the game for a reason, so it's hard to say anything inferential. 4. If you use a bonfire aesthetic on the Majula bonfire twice, then you can finally become the true monarch, Butterfly. Talk to Morlun and he'll sell this set that extends your jump distance and poisons everything around you, including NPCs. It's a really good way to ruin your game. Next 2 points were missed in my Forest 10 Things video. We're up to number 5. Now, there's this bit of text in the guide that questions whether the fire in Cardinal Tower is naturally occurring and spawned the salamanders, or whether the salamanders are responsible for the flame around them. Well, just kill them and you'll find your answer, because if you slay all the salamanders, all the pillars of fire will be extinguished. Alright, number 6. At about 50% health, the last giant will rip off his dead arm and use it to extend his reach. He's that desperate to kill you. You'll actually notice that he's really reminiscent of the Giant Lord, and him having this need to hold a weapon kind of seals the connection for me there. But that's not the point. Did you know that you can cut off his arm preemptively? Just put yourself in a more risky position to focus your attacks on it, and it'll fall off once you've dealt about 50% of his maximum health to his arm exclusively, which makes the whole process pretty redundant, really. Your time is better spent hitting one leg and then dashing to the other. Anyway, discovering this one fact made me pretty sad, actually, because I know that if this was Dark Souls 1, I would have got a weapon out of that. 7. Let's move on to the Pit. The first point I want to talk about is something I read in the comments of my Pit video. Cheers to Katarigues Joga for tipping me off on this one. So he said that there was a zipline hidden in the gutter, and I was like, what? I thought I'd been completely thorough when I explored the gutter, but after a lot of searching, I eventually followed the zipline cable above and found out where to access it. So after that first exploding undead on the bridge, you should continue along in that direction until you find this corner. Drop off, explore, climb up, and eventually you'll find these items and a zipline that allows you to skip what is essentially half of Blighttown 2.0. I could not believe this existed. I thought I knew it all. I'm going to leave a dislike on my video out of shame. Moving on to something else I missed in the gutter, number 8. You know the sconces that you can light in this area? I didn't notice it before, but they're essentially repurposed statues with their heads cut off. The body has lost its form, but at the base of each one is the severed head of a statue. With number 9 and 10, we move on to areas that I'm not planning on having full episodes on because they only have about 1 or 2 hidden things within them. So first up at number 9 is Dead Man's Wharf. You call the pirate ship in by ringing a bell, but did you know that you can bypass a chunk of the stage by shooting an arrow at this bell instead? You can essentially bring the ship in from across the map. With an iron arrow, I set off the bell, which rings to bring the ship in early, and that's a pretty neat little detail. And finally, I debated including the Dark Chasm in my pit video, but ultimately I decided against it. There's this one neat fact in this place though, and it's in the Dark Chasm of Drangleic Castle. When you go down there, you can peek through the stone here at the end of the stage, and you can see the best boss in the game waiting for you on the other side. And honestly, I kind of just included this fact so that I could talk about this boss. So Dark Lurker is an optional boss you get from exploring all 3 Dark Chasms, and he's got to be the best boss fight in the game, hasn't he? This was my first time fighting him, and it's one of those fights where you can just marvel at the design. So it starts off, it's just you and one Dark Lurker. He has a melee combo, an AoE, self-explosion, 4 ranged methods of attack I think, and also a teleport. Now the thing about his attacks is, they're all incredibly easy to predict. Firstly, each one is a different color. With a melee combo, he takes a moment to conjure the bright spell sword, and it also uses a combo that can be really easily dodged by pretty much just spamming the dodge button. In regards to his ranged attacks, he conjures 3 colored spheres, and all of these hover above his head for a few seconds before firing, which allows you to take in what's about to happen. One is fire, shooting a series of explosive fireballs in quick succession. Another is a dark spell. He'll conjure 2 dark portals and shoot a dark orb into one which will fly out of the other towards you, which will explode and knock you off your feet upon nearby impact with the ground. He can also signal for a type of light purple soul arrow to fly at you from his hands. His 4th attack is a purple laser, something that will start off slow, but track your movement and force you to run and keep away. So since you can predict all this, it's gonna be pretty easy, right? Wrong. These were only easy in order to train you for what's about to come. Now that you've been given ample time to memorize the visual cues, Dark Lurker splits in 2. You now have to deal with a flurry of attacks that threaten to overwhelm you, but these are attacks that are really predictable and in an arena that's quite manageable. It's a fight where you have to manage your camera well, but also one where you're forced to anticipate 2 opponents. They've done a brilliant job of balancing the speeds and the timing of his attacks. It feels like you're performing this intricate dance every time you fight. For example, you might know that one of these fireballs is about to fire, so you need to run the perfect amount of distance to put you into striking distance of the other Dark Lurker. Is one firing a laser? I should try and run underneath him at an angle where I can keep both in my camera. So, these are the things that you're thinking. You're constantly in this ongoing, focused state of mind. Now, compare this to another duel fight that I hate, the Throne Defender and Watcher. So in this fight, you're constantly backpedaling, waiting for both enemies to attack at once, just so they'll both be open. And in my opinion, this is just shitty boss design. It's not fun or satisfying to fight that way, and their attacks aren't predictable, which means you're actually forced to backpedal. If you could predict their attacks, it would still be hard because there's 2 of them, but at least you could get in the thick of it and cut them down by anticipating movements. But in the present form of the fight, you can't. You just have to play this waiting game where you backpedal and wait for an opening. Or you can make the fight completely trivial by summoning help and splitting their attention. With Dark Lurker, you can anticipate slow-paced ranged attacks and plan accordingly with your movements, meaning mistakes are completely your own. With the Throne Rumors, you're forced to backpedal and stay on the edge of their attacks, and God forbid you actually try to heal because they can launch attacks with unpredictable warning, meaning that where you survive one time, you may not survive another. The Souls games are at their best when damage is not left to chance. It should be left to your ability to predict and anticipate. Bear in mind, I'm not complaining that the fight is too hard. I'm not. It's just bringing out the worst of the Souls combat system, whereas the Dark Lurker fight brings out the best. I do love the fact that you have to take out the Watcher and Defender evenly though. That's a nice touch, and it's something that I just wish was realized within better combat design. So, Dark Lurker's an awesome boss, you should check it out. And also check out the other 10 Things episodes if you've missed them. They're a lot of fun to produce and share with you guys. Oh yeah, and soon we should have another Soul song ready to go, so get hype. And I'll see you in the next one. Later guys, and thanks for supporting the channel.